Welcome to this explainer. Let's jump right in, because today we're tackling a really profound paradox. Think about the modern cities we live in. They're teeming with millions of people, endless buildings, and just constant movement. Logically, we should be swimming in community, right? Yet the data and our own lived experiences tell a totally different story. We have literally never been lonelier. So today we're going to explore a fascinating idea from our source material. It's this concept that loneliness isn't just a personal failing or some kind of social glitch. It's actually something shaped and sometimes directly caused by the physical environments we live in. The architecture around us acts as an invisible force, quietly determining whether we connect with others or whether we remain entirely isolated.
It's a question you've probably felt in your bones at some point. Picture standing in a packed subway car, shoulder to shoulder with absolute strangers, or walking down the massive echoing corridors of a giant apartment complex. You're completely surrounded by humanity, yet you feel this profound sense of isolation. It feels totally backwards, doesn't it? If human connection is the cure for loneliness, why does being physically surrounded by thousands of people still leave us feeling so completely empty? Well, it's super easy to assume a simple equation. More people equals more connection. But as our source points out, that's actually a complete myth. True connection doesn't come from mere physical proximity or population density. It comes from interaction opportunities. Modern cities are incredibly dense, sure, but they actually separate us into private apartments, private cars, private offices, and these really fast transit systems. You might be inches away from someone, but you rarely see the same faces repeatedly, or stop to talk, or share those small everyday moments. Density without interaction is literally just a crowd of strangers.
Part 1. The crowded city paradox. Density versus connection.
Part 2. The geometry of isolation. Buildings and behavior.
Think about how we live vertically these days. It's a concept called stacked isolation, and it fundamentally challenges how we think about high-rise living. When we pack people vertically into tall apartment buildings, we're organizing them physically, but definitely not socially. Think about the daily routine in a high-rise. You might live near hundreds of people, but your only points of interaction are sterile, private elevators and super quiet hallways. Everyone enters and exits entirely in private. And what happens? Neighbors just become strangers. Because there's no natural community layer, no shared space actually designed for gathering, we end up with incredibly dense cities completely devoid of social design. We aren't building communities, we're just stacking isolated boxes.
And this isolation, it spills right over in how we travel. Think about the standard, car-centric daily commute. It's a 5-step sequence. You go from your home to the garage, onto the road, into a parking lot, and finally into your office building. And then, at the end of the day, you reverse the whole shebang. Notice what is entirely missing from those steps? Other people. The automobile fundamentally reshapes human behavior by basically eliminating walking time, waiting time, and any shared public experience. We are essentially transporting ourselves inside sealed, climate-controlled containers completely isolated from the outside world. This really highlights the massive difference between a walking city and a car city. In a walking city, connection is literally built into the geography. You naturally see neighbors, you stop casually at shops, and you have these great spontaneous interactions. But in a car city, human life is reduced to isolated travel between point A and point B. The time you spend between destinations becomes a total social void. Interaction completely disappears when our environment demands that we drive absolutely everywhere.
Part 3. The death of spontaneity. The loss of third places.
So what does this all mean for us? Well, a crucial point here is the loss of what sociologists call third places. Think of it like this. Your first place is your home. Your second place is your work. Third places are those essential spaces in between. The local cafes, the parks, small shops, community corners. They're vital because they offer low-pressure, repeated social interactions that actually build community identity. But here's the tragedy our source highlights. Modern zoning laws often strictly separate residential, commercial, and industrial zones. By forcing everything to be so far apart, our daily life gets fragmented, and these natural, spontaneous meeting points are completely zoned out of existence.
When we lose those third places, we lose serendipity. And serendipity isn't just a cute buzzword. It's the unexpected, meaningful encounters that make up the whole fabric of a neighborhood. It's bumping into a familiar face at the corner shop, or having a quick chat while walking your dog. Because our routes are now fixed, our transport is private, and our spaces are heavily segmented, this neighborhood serendipity has been replaced by a rigid, scheduled isolation. We no longer accidentally bump into our community.
Part 4. The psychological toll. How cities affect minds.
Our cities don't just dictate how we move, they actively mess with our brains. Consider the characteristics of a harsh urban environment. Heavy concrete, fast-moving traffic, constant noise pollution, fenced-off areas, and a total lack of seating. If you constantly feel a low-level stress when you're walking downtown, your brain is actually having a perfectly natural reaction to a hostile environment. This cold urban geometry keeps our brains in a defensive, alert, don't engage mode. When there's nowhere to sit and the environment is loud and fast, our physical surroundings are fundamentally discouraging us from being socially open to strangers.
Which perfectly explains the rise of digital escapism. When the physical world feels stressful, cold, and disconnected, what do? We retreat to our screens. We turn to social media, gaming, and online communities. Our source makes a deeply empathetic point here. Retreating online isn't just a personal failing or purely a technology addiction. It's actually a highly rational environmental adaptation. Digital spaces offer controlled interaction, they remove physical discomfort, and they allow us to connect with zero risk. When the concrete world fails us socially, the digital world is kind of the only place left to go.
Compounding this psychological toll is our broken community structure. A healthy community naturally mixes different groups of people, right? Families, singles, students, the elderly. But modern housing development does the exact opposite. We build luxury towers in one area, sprawling suburbs in another, and gated communities somewhere else entirely. By physically separating different demographics, we completely break down the multi-generational support systems and the informal social care networks that humans have relied on for literally thousands of years.
Part 5. Designing for connection, fixing isolation.
Okay, I know the picture looks a little bleak right now, but if design got us into this mess, design can absolutely get us out of it. Fixing this isolation can start with something as simple as a park, but not all green spaces are created equal. Consider the difference between weak and strong park design. Weak design gives us token green spaces shoved right next to a noisy highway. They lack seating, they lack shade, and they're essentially just visual decoration. Maybe they look good in a real estate brochure, but no one actually uses them. Strong park design, on the other hand, provides walkable access, comfortable seating, and a safe, welcoming feel. These parks aren't just for looking at, they serve as actual social infrastructure where a community can gather and just breathe.
This concept of proximity scales up into a much larger solution that you might have heard of, the 15-minute city. This is a super powerful urban design model where everything you need for daily life is located within a 15-minute walk or bike ride from your home. By keeping our daily needs local, we replace isolated driving with community walking. It's a direct antidote to the car-centric city, returning that lost serendipity and casual encounter to our daily routines, which in turn builds a much stronger neighborhood identity.
At the heart of all this is human-centered design. And it's not always about massive infrastructure overhauls. Sometimes it's about incredibly simple architectural changes, shared courtyards, public benches, local markets, pedestrian-first streets. These small additions are powerful because they generate what sociologists call micro-interactions. Those tiny daily greetings, nods, and shared moments. They might seem insignificant, but those micro-interactions are the foundational building blocks that quietly generate trust and a profound sense of belonging among neighbors.
Which really brings us to the core thesis of our source material. It's perfectly captured in this quote. Cities built for speed produce isolation. Cities built for gathering produce connection. Wow, right? It's a profound, memorable truth. Loneliness isn't just about a lack of social skills or too much screen time. It's a byproduct of the design systems we live within. If we build for cars, speed, and separation, we get isolated strangers. If we build for walking, lingering, and gathering, we naturally cultivate a connected community. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Tomorrow morning, when you step outside, take a look around your own neighborhood. Ask yourself, is your daily environment designed for movement and efficiency, or is it actually designed for human connection? Understanding this doesn't just absolve you of the guilt of feeling disconnected. It empowers you to see the invisible architecture that's shaping your life and perhaps to start demanding spaces that bring us back together. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope you never look at your city the same way again.